Reddit. How did your friend become your best friend? When I broke my leg skiing with him, he dragged me out of the trees and back in bounds where patrol could get me. I remember looking up at him and thinking, this is the best friend I've ever had. He died skiing 5 years ago and I don't think I'll ever know anyone like him again. Respect. Skier bro code right there. Friends don't let friends get their passes pulled. I was in class in 4th grade, and my teacher said, "Jackson, can you see the board okay with those binoculars?" The whole class looked over at him and he had his hands up to his eyes like they were binoculars. For some reason it was the funniest thing we had ever seen. He had the entire class rolling in laughter. I remember thinking something like, yep, this guy knows what he's doing. We're now roommates in our junior year of college, and I wouldn't be near the person I am without him. TLDR. 4th grade kids are stupid as heck. I got really excited when I saw the name Jackson because I thought somebody considered me their best friend. Too bad it wasn't actually about me. We've been best friends since we were 8. I was sleeping over at her house and her mom made her take a shower. She comes out and starts dancing in her robe. She whipped her robe open, exposing her little naked crotch. I was shocked and sat there laughing. She got embarrassed and closed her robe. My mom got me new skin-colored underwear. "That wasn't my vagina," she said in embarrassment. I told her it was okay and we laughed and were best friends since. TLDR. Became best friends with Maya when I was 45. Just kidding. I was 8 too. Your TLDR is delightful and made me read the whole post. I think I should make confusing TLDR just to frick with lazy people now. My best friend is the girl married to one of my oldest friends. They did long distance for a year before she moved down. She came into town right before her birthday, so when it rolled around I got a group of girls together to take her out. We went to a bar and chatted. It was getting a little dull, so one of the drunker girls suggested we go to the male strip club down the road. So we packed it up and went. Of course, since it is her birthday, someone buys her a lap dance. This guy looked just like the Karate Kid. It was uncanny. He starts grinding her and then the dance become a minute of him thrusting his crotch into her face. She finally looks at him and basically screams. Never once was a girl aroused by the idea of blowing Rafe Maxio. I feel like Miyagi was not the right teacher for your current career choice. That's when I knew she was a keeper. All he wanted to do was wax off. Jeez. During a trip to Europe in my sophomore year of high school, he was a year behind me. I got into silly little bouts of trouble with this kid Matt. I loved everything about him and we discovered how awesome we were together as friends when we got in trouble in the Eiffel Tower because we needed chocolate. After returning to the States we were thick as thieves. I still have a note he wrote me for Christmas that started, "I know we are not supposed to rate our friends, but you are without a doubt my best friend. You make me feel so good about myself." I cried into his arms. We went through other friend drama together, stayed up in the phone until 3 AM on school nights and told each other every shameful thing and secret about our adolescent lives. When he went to college we stayed in touch and hung out on a few occasions, but feelings about each other never waned. He joined the army and was preparing for a deployment. Nothing serious. I missed his going away party because I was broke, but promised I would see him the following Saturday after Labor Day. He shot himself on the 6th of September. Although he was my best friend, I did not know he was sad. I am 24 years of age and female. The man who is a huge part of who I am today has gone and left me a changed person. I still sometimes only feel like I am waiting for him to come back from the deployment he didn't make it to. Sorry to be a bummer. Make sure to tell your best friend that you love them. 0 to 100 in 3 words. I posted this the other day in the "How did your friends come through for you" thread, but I really want to say it again here. It's really not that big of a deal, but when my brother died when I was 15, my best friend at the time came over to my house, toting a crap ton of food her and her mother had bought for us. She looked at me and said, "Oh, your eyes are pink and puffy, too." It was the sweetest sentence anyone's ever said to me. She didn't know my brother that well, but the fact that she had cried for him it was just so heartbreaking. Ugh. Just tit up. That just sounds so sweet. 5th grade. Nerds had special privileges. We both got to do all of these things together. We went to Catholic school. We were altar servers. We got out of class to serve masses during the school day. We cleaned rooms at the end of the day. We worked at the church's food pantry. He was much smaller than everyone else. He got picked on by others and I didn't like that. I'm the only one allowed to do that. We paired together because he knew I didn't like when people picked on him. We are closer than brothers. He is family to my family. He has a very small family that has been adopted by my large family. 16 years and have only fought a handful of times. Never angry at each other for more than a few hours. Love him to death and wouldn't hesitate to hide the body for him. Friends help you move. Real friends help you move bodies. Gradually, over time, we met in 7th grade back in 1993 and soon discovered we despised the same people, which was very refreshing. We tried to make a comic together with crayons, but being 13, gave up quite quickly. We were in the same school for only 2 years till 95, but somehow stayed friends even after we went to different high schools and colleges. Today we draw a comic called Frito and Pigeon. I was the new kid in my kindergarten class. It was the first day of school. My teacher had me introduce myself. At this point, I thought if I could pull off a perfect joke, I would be the coolest kid in the school. I said the only thing that I thought was hilarious. Sometimes, I poop purple. Everyone, surprised at the comment about my rave-colored crap, just gave me blank stares. I sat down, extremely embarrassed until somebody came up to me. "Hi, I'm Jeremy. Do you really poop purple?" I am now a junior in high school. We are best friends to this day. We beat the frick out of each other, then slowly became good friends over time while constantly battling stronger and stronger opponents. We even merged bodies once or twice. She accepted me wholly. She had just the right mixture of social retardation and emotional depth, and she enjoys giving BJs. Just a matter of luck and puzzle pieces fitting. Trying to work out if that's sweet or not. First day of 5th grade, 2 guys at my table were talking, and I wanted to join the conversation. So I said, "Want to hear me song the Full House theme song? We've been best friends ever since. I want to hear you song it." There was a friend I had since grade 9 art class, years and years ago. Still friends. Initial phrasing is obscure to that fact. At first, I didn't know what to expect when we met. He didn't seem as into intellectual conversation or similar music, or much else, but we had a very compatible sense of humor, right, while being both dry and slapstickish. At first we were more school friends. Then as a year went by we started to hang out and play video games relatively frequently. Our lives became a little more intertwined as months went by. His cat, who's the first I actively encountered regularly due to my mother's allergies, became my favorite animal alive, spending all its time on my lap or sleeping on me while I slumbered. What became the final binding was kind of odd. Psilocybin, aka shrooms. We had both done them once or twice before by post-secondary school, but we decided to do them just the two of us and spend the night hanging out. What we expected to be shroomy music and games turned into 8.5 hours of just pouring our hearts into the most earnest conversation I've had in years. I was almost brought to tears multiple times by the realization of how proud of him I am. The fact he's become so enamored and passionate about his education and his life path made me proud the way an older brother is. Even typing this is making me a little shaky. That night just made us realize how important we'd been to each other, while at times it may have seemed we were just another pair of friends among the sea of bro pairs out there. That night revealed that more than some fickle bromance, I sincerely care for him, and vice versa. I am excited for him to start his career and his life, and I couldn't be happier we're still friends. Drugs are not always a bad thing by any means. Have a good head on your shoulders and some great company. By all accounts I've had you very well may change your life for the better, and perhaps come out with a better view of your surroundings. I write many stories it seems. Tripping together was definitely a bonding experience for my best friend and I. Known him for 15 years, and those times will always be something I remember about our friendship. Drugs don't make a good cornerstone of a friendship, but they can definitely bring people closer together on some kind of spiritual level. I got kicked out of the Naval Academy for being a terrible midshipman. Academic board separation. One friend and ex-roommate made it a point to call me all the time and keep in touch, even though I deactivated my Facebook and made it clear I wanted to drop off the map. I had a few great friends there, but his caring despite my objections really made him my best friend. He sounds like a really great guy. Well, my friend, Joe, and I first met when we had the same teacher in kindergarten. I considered us friends, but we rarely played. And yes, played because that's what we did back then, outside of school. I found out he lived the neighborhood over, which is connected to my neighborhood. So we decided to start going over to each other's houses more often. And what was a school friendship turned into quite the rapport. I could honestly say that 80% of the time that was light outside and I didn't have school. We were outside with 2 others playing football, basketball, baseball, soccer, scootering, or playing at the school playground. I live a block away from my elementary school. Well, halfway through elementary school I get the news that his family is gonna move. They wanted to stay in the same city, but that could still mean moving 3-4 miles away, which would limit when our moms could pick us up or drop us off. By chance, he moved in a house on the same street as me, about 5 houses down. Now that move was the beginning of a friendship I hold dearly. I'm now almost 20 and he goes to college about an hour away from mine. But when I see him, nothing ever changes. Myso was my best friend in this entire world. We met in high school and dated until yesterday when she passed away. She always listened to my problems and was seriously the best person in the world. Very sorry for your loss. I was in preschool and told her some made up story about mythical creatures that live underground but could possess human bodies if humans touched certain rocks in order. I told her this story as I was possessed. We played that game for years and created a whole world of different creatures and mythology and characters. We never once admitted it was a game. You could say anything and it then became fact. I'm not sure, actually. There's no story, or at least not an interesting one. We just connected, and even though we hardly see each other these days, I know that when we do meet, we're going to have a good time. I'm in the same exact boat with my best friend. Every single time I think about him I can't stop smiling cause I think about all the stupid crap we did together, and how every time we have hung out it's always a blast. He is the funniest person I've ever met. I'm gonna call that sucker. 4th grade, I told my now best friend that we couldn't be best friends when she asked because I already had one. Apparently you could only have one back then. Seeing how bad she felt made me realize how silly I was. Because he is just as terrible a human being as I am, I doubt I could find another morally degraded person like my friend in 10 years. Yep, making racist jokes and talking about how you killed a rat when you were 9 years old makes you horribly morally degraded. Well, I met my best friend Veronica in 4th grade. I just came to America from Kazakhstan and I didn't know any English and the only Russian speaking person in my new class was her. Our teacher made me sit next to her so she could translate and help me out around the new school. One of the things Veronica helped me with was my first American school Scantron test. At the time I didn't know that we were taking a test and I remember staring at all of those bubbles wondering what the heck do I do with them. So I asked my dear friend Veronica and her reply was to draw flowers using those bubbles. Unfortunately I didn't pass that test, but I did gain a wonderful friendship. We are now in our 20s and see each other almost every other day. Our families are extremely close and we just tell everyone that they're cousins. So basically my first friend in America ended up being my best and closest friend. Sorry for the crappy grammar. I stayed up all night. My best college friend and I both dated 2s who were friends and then went to McDonald's to talk crap. I'd still trade him for some s. I've a few friends who I consider my best friends. We just went to school together. Always had each other's backs. Nothing exciting. We just always keep in contact, even as adults. Well, my best friend is my wife. She became that within weeks of our first meeting. Asked her to marry me after 4 weeks. Been together 13 years. I met my oldest friend when we were both babies because our mums were neighbors. It was the first time I ever came over to her house. We were watching TV and eating snacks when her dog starts humping her cat. Now, they are both females, which adds to peculiar nature of this event. She looked like she was about to cry from mortification. So, I put one arm around her and said, "This looks like the start to a beautiful friendship." She stares at me and starts laughing and stops crying, and I start laughing while her dog is still humping her cat. But we didn't care. But now I'm the only one who can make her laugh whenever she's crying or just very upset. It's been like this for 7 years now and I still love her like a little sister. This dude had Slifer the Sky Dragon at soccer practice and I had him come over to try to trade it to me. After multiple trips to my place, he never gave it to me. 10 years later and the sucker still hasn't budged. I went to Ohio with some friends for some reason. There was a bunch of kids from some Christian school with us, and when the food came everyone started to pray and me and my friend started just eating the crap out of some pancakes. The kids got P.A.s and we both called them F. Thus at that moment a friendship was born. I was going through a time of suicidal thoughts and depression and my friend noticed what was going on, so she asked me to talk to her about it and she admitted that she had been through some of the same things I had, so we just started talking about what we went through and really helped each other get through a tough time, and about 6 weeks ago she was the only one to stop me from committing suicide, so she really managed to help me out. She beat me in a trainer battle on Pokemon. She became my greatest rival and my best friend. We're still friends to this day, and she still kicks my butt at video games. No joke though, we had a battle with those connector cords between our Game Boys and had a trainer battle. She beat the crap out of me, and our Pokemon were even. LOL. His brother committed suicide and sent my friend spiraling through depression. With my mother having passed away recently, I knew how to deal with traumatic crap. He told me that having said what I said to him the night his brother took his life, saved him from taking his own the following morning. We both had a bit of a moment, had our tears, and hugged. At that second in time I knew that he would be one of the people in my life that would be in my thoughts every day, no matter how far we live from each other. He sung a song that went along the lines of "I'm a little midget, short and stout. Here is my handle. I smell like trout." We were 11 at that point. We've been best friends ever since. Time. Really, we were always really good friends and we've continued to be good friends. Although we roll with separate crowds these days, I'd still say we're good friends. I was about 11-12, and me and my now best friend sat at the same table in French class. I was always really shy and she was really loud and outgoing. She would talk away with me and everyone at the table, and I began to get comfortable with her talking to me, so I would talk back and stuff. So after a while it's all good. Then one day we're talking and she says, "Oisin's my best friend, aren't you?" I can't remember what the conversation was about, and I say yes just because I thought she was messing, but she was deadly serious. She starts talking to me on MSN and Bebo. Don't judge, I was 12, and we become pretty close. After a while people begin to ask if we're going out, and I was never attracted to her, so I instantly said no. She later admitted to telling people to ask me, but I didn't tell her I wasn't attracted to her, but I didn't say I was either. Fast forward a year and we're still best friends, and now she sits beside me in Ray as well. And in Ray we could talk all class, just because our teacher was really nice and didn't mind as long as we finished our work. So my best friend starts telling me everything about her life. I mean everything. For a 13-year-old I was shocked at what she got up to. I just listened and listened. I didn't know what to say because I was the quiet person who didn't have much friend outside of school and didn't go out much. She begins to trust me a lot, and I wouldn't say I trust her as much, just because, well, you just have to know her. But we become really close and she tells me everything, and I simply listen. We begin to hang out outside of school, and I feel like she is my best friend. She then asks in French class that I'm taking her to the formal, for Americans, like a prom I guess. I take it as a joke, again, but she isn't, so I just agree. Fast forward to now. This time next year is our formal, and she still asks, tells me that I'm taking her to the formal. She's even started making plans for it, and that I should bring her a rose and a box of chocolates, but the rose isn't necessary, but the chocolates is. We hang out nearly every weekend in my, and she still tells me everything, although she isn't as nuts as she was at age 13. She still tells me things that make me think seriously. WTF, and although she isn't the best of friends, she is my best friend, and I can admit it without feeling like I'm joking. I doubt we'll ever drift apart. We have the same social group, and I don't think I could let it happen. She's also mentioned that we and another friend should live together at some stage. That should be fun. TLDR. Girl that liked me would open up and tell me everything. Forced me to be her best friend and take her to the formal. Became closer and are real best friends now. Posted this a long time ago, but relevant nonetheless. Was nuts over this girl. Got the guts to ask her to prom. She accepted. But then at a party 2 days before, she's off making out with at least one other guy there. I was there as well. Then, at prom after party, beforehand at prom I treated her like gold. She volunteers herself, along with the other stupid women in the room, for a random romp with this other douchebag, all while I'm sitting next to her. This is when I discovered that completely empty, on the verge of pity look the next time I looked at her. She completely knew what she was doing. That summer, a not so close friend of mine at the time managed to get a few dates with her. They hung out and fooled around for a few weeks, but then one night at the tail end of a night out with her, he goes to pick up a friend of his to run a quick errand. His friend puts a duffel bag of weapon-like objects, bats, clubs, crowbars, machetes, etc. in the trunk, and they drive to another friend's house. They tell the girl to wait in the car. This will only take a minute, and they run inside with the bag. They run back to the car about a minute later with another duffel bag full of goodies. Load it in the trunk, making sure the sounds of clanking metal were heard in the back seat, and drive off hastily. They then dropped her off at home worried and scared. What she didn't know is the whole thing was staged. 2 days later the two of them meet at a park and she asks him about where their relationship was going. He responds with, "I was just having fun. You messed with, bass in her face, s-head, so I messed with yours. Don't do it again, it's not nice." She was strangely friendly towards me near the end of that summer, and I didn't know why until I had heard the story. The gentleman who did all this is now my best friend. My best friend is a guy named Sam. Back when we were 4ish, he would be mean to me, bully me around, but I'd follow him around because we'd get into minor trouble and go on little adventures together. I can see how oblivious I was at the time, because it was by all definitions an abusive relationship. At age 4, I know, but I stuck around because I didn't care. We started to get along better. We found out that we actually had a ton in common over the next couple years. We started warming up to each other, and eventually there was zero hostility or negativity. We would go explore the forests in Washington around our houses in the local neighborhoods, build forts, catch various reptiles and amphibians. It was so much fun. He and I both were homeschooled up to 5th grade. I went public, he went private, but we hung out 3 out of 7 days of the week practically. He had a huge house, and we would swim in his pool and he'd come over and play video games. At the time his mom was against them for some reason. It was some of the best times of my life. A few years later, after we both hit high school, his dad was laid off, and the family found a job in California. This meant I'd have to say goodbye. He moved shortly after, but I would see him a couple times in the near future because they loved coming back to visit our town because their old life was so great. We had some insane misadventures over the years, and I miss this guy to death. Makes me sad thinking about how both of our lives have changed since then. Sam is one of the most intelligent, likable, and hilarious people you'll ever meet. You can't expect a single conversation to last less than half an hour with him because he always had something interesting to talk about. He currently lives in Connecticut, and we Facebook a lot. I just wish the good old days weren't over. TL Doctor, read this, it's a good story. My, at the time, childhood bully became my absolute best friend over the years. In my opinion, you're never truly best friends with someone until one of you has to ensure that the other doesn't choke on their own vomit after a night of drinking. My best friend has some sociopath tendencies. He chose to include me in a group of people he started hanging out with because he thought it would be a good combination of people to be a group of friends. He was right, and we all had a blast throughout high school and whenever we got together when home from college. Him and I are still best friends today. We live 1,500 miles from each other, but since we live in the future we hang out almost every night online. 6th grade beginner's clarinet class. I saw a girl I barely ever talked to writing on her binder with a dry erase marker who looked angry. When I went over to see what was wrong, because I was a nice 6th grader and I had talked to her occasionally, I saw what she was writing. Full Metal Alchemist. When I saw what she had written I was overly enthusiastic and quickly said, "Hey, I know that show. Did you see the episode that was playing last night? I can't wait until the next one." She looked at me like I was crazy but replied, "Yeah, I saw it." And then suddenly she looked like she was angry again and said, "Crap, you made me break my vow of silence." I wasn't supposed to speak until the next episode. After that we bonded over some very geeky things and to this day she's my best friend. We actually had our FMA and FMAB marathon not too long ago. In kindergarten I asked them, they are twins, if they wanted to be my friend. 18 years later and they are still my best friends. The dudes I can always rely on. My best friend went into treatment for anorexia our junior year of high school and missed several months of school. I was really the only one that kept in constant contact with her through email. We had been close friends before but we, to this day, are near inseparable. We're both sophomores in college, different schools though. We still talk almost daily over Facebook and share about our days and vent about our male friend troubles and squeal over new male friends. When I floated the idea that one must not involve friends in financial matters, business, ventures as you may lose the money and friendship, he said, "Actually, I would not mind if you took my money and never returned it." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.